today we've got some amazing people who are going to be doing your panel. Everybody get all roped up. We have Chris Making Money Malone.
That's a new one. Hey guys.
We've got Davonne. Can't she do it? Dupart. We've got Mr. Eddie.
What an intro.
Wow.
What an intro.
And they're going to be talking to you today about thriving in an unstable economy. So if you've ever wondered, how am I going to make it in this industry? These three people have gone through the highs and the lows. And they're going to tell you all their secrets. So in the beginning, we're just going to let them introduce themselves, tell you who they are, and then we'll go into Q&A.
Okay, I will go first. I have the mic. So, I'm Davonne Dupart, and I was going to pull up some of my...
Go ahead.
I don't know how to use this. Okay.
It's really fancy. It is touchscreen, and you touch all over here, and then you hit these buttons.
Oh, okay. So I feel like it's a touch. Okay. Well, I'm Davonne Dupart. My specialty is animation, so specifically making the characters move. So I've worked at a number of studios. So I've worked at Bento Box, on The Awesomes. I've worked on the show Animals, that's on HBO. I've done a number of projects. The most recent projects I've done have been for like state museums and national parks. I'm now, what else have I done? I feel like I've been around everywhere. I've been at Primal Screen, working on educational things. So I've just kind of been one of those studio hoppers, as some of you have experienced. So, yes, together at Mental Box. Yeah. So, my specialty is animation, so I'm going to show you guys kind of like what my work looks like, and this is what I send to studios usually when they want to see what I can do. So I do 3D animation. This is Maya. I did some traditional 2D animation with Flash.
All right, Hootie, stay here.
Come on, everybody count with me. Put your hands up and count to the beat.
Have you never been around teenage girls before?
Whoa!
Oh, I've been around plenty of teenage girls. That totally came out wrong.
And I choose using my rockin' bod to make men drool and give me what I want.
And then towards the end, I have some of my character designs and drawings. And usually it's just kind of to show a wide range of what I can do. That I can draw, I can do traditional animation, I can do 2D, I can do some 3D, and just kind of sell yourself. Yeah, it's only set to repeat. And then I have another section where you can see like more shots that I did from like The Awesomes, and I worked on that web series Purgatory. I don't know if you guys
I love
heard
that name,
one.
Purgatory.
Purgatory, yeah, it's about pugs. So, yeah, that's kind of like just a brief overview of what I do, and I've just kind of recently have gone into this role this past year where I'm an independent contractor. So not only am I negotiating contracts, I'm negotiating my fee, I'm bringing in other artists, and I'm actually working with the entire production pipeline, and I'm doing things from concepting, from storyboarding to rigging to animating the characters and compositing. So it's just been a whirlwind. So it's been all over the place, but it's been a great experience, great learning experience. So.
Oh, I'm up. Oh, we already got a question.
I use Maya. So some studios you'll see that they want you to use Cinema 4D or what's the Mudbox, which is the.
I think.
And yeah, but I exclusively use Maya. Any other questions before? Pass it on.
All right. Looks like I'm up. I got to plug this zip in here. My name is Ed Jacoby, professional artist. Went to school in San Francisco, Academy of Art for animation. Bumpy ride, sure. Creative, I can't help it. But I think that basically how I started out was just kind of getting a job at a studio, basically. And started Bed-to-Box. Just learning the software. I didn't know what a tween was when I got my job at the studio. If you don't know what a tween is, it's okay. But when I first day on the job, he's like, yeah, just tween it. I'm like, what's a tween? So it was an interesting, throw you to the wolves kind of thing. But you need to learn the software. Software is important, but drawing is more important than the software, to be completely honest. So basically, sorry, I'm just gonna try and unzip this real quick. Might take a second. So let's see what I'm talking about. Basically started out in a studio at Bed-to-Box, and then basically met a bunch of people there, became friends with people that ended up going to other studios and actually getting me work down the road. So it ended up in Floyd County working on Bigfoot and a little archer there.
Yeah.
And then I kind of just got the urge to kind of spread my wings and go do my own thing. So I opened up my own little studio. So, out of my house, but basically opened up my own little animation studio so I could basically, do my taxes, But I'm going to show you a couple of things, just where I kind of started out. I guess I'll start with, animation, since this is about animation, right? Let's see here. I'll start you. This is some work I did in college. I don't know if you're gonna be able to hear it, but
I just want to do it. I mean, it sounds good and all, but I just have to confront the fact that I really don't like the people that have been talking about helping out. I don't think I like people, period.
And this was done in Toon Boom. It took a while. It's multiple passes. As you'll notice with animation, it's never really a done deal. And I like to quote Chuck Jones. An artist never finishes anything, he only abandons it. And I'm sure you guys all feel the same way, It's one of those things where you kind of have to just keep going forward, experimenting, and just keep going at it. Because, you're going to have some lows, man. You're going to have lows. Believe me. When you're scrounging for that, next meal. But it's all passion driven. And you guys are here because I would assume you're all passionate about animation and art. So, just fun stuff, putting it together. I would definitely recommend learning traditional, big time. Get a ream of paper and start flipping them, because that's the only way you're gonna actually learn it the way. Because then you get to the digital stuff and you're like, okay, I just need to learn the digital tools, but I got the drawing, right? Makes sense.
Because traditional can help you with digital, but digital doesn't really always apply back to traditional work.
It's vice versa too, and learning that digital stuff, up front is pretty good, because you're gonna need it. Let's see here. I'm only gonna show a couple more. Oh shit. Sorry, cut her mouth. This one took a while. Let's just say that. I did all the sound as well. You're gonna want to learn to do things by yourself. army of one is usually a good idea. But yeah, on the background here, you learn stuff about different programs too. Like you learn, different editing software and stuff like that. How to do effects,
Yeah.
I'll show one more thing, and then leave the floor to this guy. Any Rick and Morty fans? It's a breakdown of the Cthulhu shot that I did for the intro. And this is all digital. This is digital with 3D rotoscoping. So basically Maya and Toon. We'll see when the ship comes in. It takes time. And if you're not patient, I don't know. Animation might not be for you, You gotta be patient, man. So this is rotoscope over top of that 3D ship. So you do the 3D animation, and then you rotoscope over top. And then color, which also takes a while. But yeah, this is the final. And you guys on Instagram? Anybody? You should be. If you're not on social media, I recommend Instagram and LinkedIn. I can't do Facebook. I just can't do it these days. But at the Dope, DOHP. Check my stuff out. There's plenty on there.
All right. All right, I guess we're wrapping up with me here at the end. Again, I mentioned my name was Chris Killica Malone, so you can call me Chris, you can call me Killica, whatever you want. So yeah, I've been here in Atlanta for about 8 years. I've been working in the animation industry for maybe about 5, where I got my start over at Floyd County Productions working on Archer as an illustrator. So yeah, that was fun. That's where I met Alyssa, so we got to work in a lot of fun Archer adventures over there. But yeah, the way that I got the job was just by meeting the crew at events just like this and hanging out with them outside of said events. And we didn't do anything cartooning related together. We would just, go to lunch together. We would go to Battle and Brew together. We would play video games together. And we just did everything that wasn't work. And yeah, then eventually after like 2 years, a spot opened up and they were like, hey, we really like you. Would you be interested in coming to work for us before we even post this up online? And so that's how I got my job. It's just, being friends with them. And that's the biggest piece of advice I have to give to anybody is just, actually build real relationships with people. Don't go up to like your favorite cartoonist at a comic book convention and just start talking work. Like, try to figure them out, become friends with them outside of work, and eventually it'll all fall into place. So I was at Archer for seasons 5, 6, and 7, and after season 7, I ended up finishing my my master's degree over at SCAD in sequential art. So in addition to animation, I do a lot of fun comic books on the side too. So I have I did a webcomic for about 10 years called Blue and Blonde back in the day. That was a lot of fun. That was actually my whole start into cartooning. And then after Archer, I started working on a show called Cyanide and Happiness. Mm-hmm. So I do storyboards and animatics for that show, and that just kind of snowballed into a lot of other fun stuff like Adam Ruins Everything, mm-hmm. where I do character design and storyboards for some of their show, for some of their animated episodes. I did some work for the WWE, which was kind of fun. I'm going to be showing you guys a little bit of that later. That was fun because we got to work with The Rock, which was pretty neat.
Oh,
so
dude.
I'll be showing that in a bit. And then I also got a lot of other cool stuff. I'm not exactly allowed to share just yet, but that's unfortunately part of the nature of the industry. Is like you got all these cool things that you're working on, and you swear that you're working on them, but you can't exactly reveal them just yet.
NDAs.
Right, NDAs. But actually, one of them just got lifted earlier this week because it's coming out next week. It's called The Blubbers. So it's a brand new show done by the creators of Cyanide and Happiness, and it is about a suburb set inside of a whale. And so you have like Nemo, like Captain Ahab, like Joseph, like any character from fiction that's been thrown inside of a whale is currently living inside of this giant whale in a suburb community. So yeah, let me go ahead and show off the demo reel here. So I currently run my own company called Surfdog Art, where I do both animation and comic books. So you can just find it at surfdogart.com, and you can follow me at anything like Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or anything, Surfdog Art. So yeah, this is just some of the work that I do here. I'm a huge One Piece fan. But yeah, let's hop into the demo reel first. So one of the other things I got a chance to do is, has anyone here actually played the game Battleborn? You poor soul. Alright, so Battleborn was an awesome game that came out like May 2015, I think it was, or maybe 16. Came out a month before Overwatch. So it was awesome for a month, and then people forgot about it like immediately. But I got a chance to work as the lead cleanup artist for that team because we did animated intros for the game, and I also did UI design. So that meant that I got to be able to design like a lot of computer screens and a lot of like the sniper scopes and everything for the game, which was pretty fun. But yeah, let me show you the demo real quick here. The mouse does not want to work for me. So yeah, this would work on the game Battleborn. We all fought for that scene. So yeah, I like to have the like in the bottom right corner, like what I did for each shot, which is mostly either the cleanup work or kind of some of the asset design work for it. And you know, as Ed was talking about earlier, like it's a long process, and it's made a lot quicker by doing it in teams. And so we had people working on different backgrounds for it. We had people doing. We had somebody else who did all the robots. So like I did the badass with the sword fighting the robots, while somebody else did that, and we had to kind of work together. You know, in opposite parts of the country, even to be able to make sure that the robots and my swordsmen were like actually connecting with each other. But yeah, no, that was a lot of fun work, and I don't really sleep a lot, but I enjoy it. So let's see. I'm gonna show you. I promised you guys I would show you the stuff I did with WWE. So let me pull that up real quick.
Who watches WWE?
Yes, it was. It was a combination of 2D and 3D. And I think the idea was we were originally planning on rotoscoping the robots and making them look a little bit more hand-drawn. But just because of budget constraints and time constraints, we figured that was one thing that, it still looked really cool, and that was just one of the decisions we made, was to keep them looking a little bit more 3D than the other characters. Judy, because I went there for sequential art. So my master's degree is in comics, sequential art, and storyboards. So here we go. Called The Rock's Youthful Shenanigans. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was great. Like, I did my first pass of the animatics with the team, and that was done through LowBrow, which we worked together on that. Did you work on animating that too?
Yes, I worked on the one with, I don't know a lot about this stuff. You know, with snakes. It was the episode with wrestling with snakes.
I just know The Rock, unfortunately.
Yeah, like
Jake the Snake.
probably if anyone knows.
Charles, you know?
Oh.
Okay, sorry about that. No, we were just talking about how we actually worked on a couple episodes of the WWE together. However, we just have not worked on the same episode. We just worked for the series together.
Yes, and I was just saying that since I don't know a lot about wrestling, I cannot remember the name of the wrestler that I was animating. I just know that he had snakes.
It's probably this guy probably called it, man.
Jake.
Yeah.
Yes. That was like first time.
And then I guess just kind of round everything off, the other thing I do too is I actually just started teaching at Kennesaw State University last fall, where I was brought in to help out with the animation department and also to kind of start up a new sequential art and comics department at the school. So it's really awesome to see a lot of the students here. So thanks for showing up, guys.
Did everybody learn something?
It's a team effort.
Fantastic. We're going to go right into questions. Who submitted a question online? There's two hands. There's only two people who submitted. I'm just kidding. I'm a jokester. Take everything I say with a grain of salt. Okay. So I'm going to ask some questions. And then when we're done getting the panel's questions from the pre-questions, then we'll open it up to the floor for you to ask your questions. However, at any time, if what they're saying just isn't clear to you at all, just go ahead and stop us. Raise your hand. I'll assume that you're not asking a new question, but that you're asking about what they're saying. And I'll be your moderator today, so I'll be bad cop. All right, panelists.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the mic. Davonne, you get it first.
Okay.
Describe the worst employment situation you've ever been in and how you overcame it. And don't skip out on the juicy parts.
Quick question though, would that be more for in the animation industry or just in general, any?
Animation industry.
Okay.
Okay. I would have to say. I'm gonna let this studio remain nameless. Actually, they don't exist anymore. But the worst situation was not getting paid from a studio. It was just one of those situations, maybe you've been in it, where you're kind of looking for work and then you get contacted by someone, they're like, we need someone immediately, we want you to start, and so you're like, okay, and you kind of just think to yourself, well, I have everything in emails, what we're supposed to be doing, and I know they're going to get the paperwork to me, and it was one of those situations where the workload was way more than they said it would be. They were like, oh, it's about, 40 seconds of animation per week, you know. I was working like 60 hours, you know, in the week, like trying to hit these deadlines. And it was so much, there was no ramp up period. And for those of you who don't know, the ramp up period is for you to just get acquainted with how the studio creates their show, like the animation style and how to draw the characters and how to stay on model. So there was none of that, so it was a lot of like me trying to figure out how do they set up these files, like half the time figuring out how to get through the files. And so doing that, and then just kind of like, hey, you know, I finished this first week of work, you know, how are we gonna do this payment and stuff? They're like, oh yeah, we're gonna work on it, you know, but you know, we're gonna pay you this rate for this week. It was like a flat rate for the week, and then it was like, okay, but we're gonna have to come down like a little bit for the next 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, you know, that's still fine. And then just going on, still never got any paperwork, but everything was in emails, and I thought, okay, that's okay. Then I finally get a check, and it's not for the full amount. Yeah, I finally get a payment, and it's not for the full amount. I'm like, okay, so I'm asking them, this is not for all the work that I've done. And I'm getting an email, well, you need to cash that right now, just cash it. And I'm just like, why is that happening? You know, like, I'm like, I feel like if I cash this, I'm like accepting that this is the rate that I should be paid for the amount of work I did. And it was the producer who said, no, you got to check, you need to just cash it. And then I started emailing other people that I knew that were on the project. I'm like, so have you run into this? They're like, yeah, I haven't got paid yet. It's like 3 weeks late, and you know, the check they gave me bounced, and now like I'm behind. Or it was crazy. So fortunately, you know, I had gotten brought onto another studio, so I was having income coming in, but I was just like, this studio still only paid me a third of what I was owed. So then I got in contact with an entertainment lawyer. Maybe some of you have heard like Lee Morin Entertainment. Well, for those of you that haven't, she's amazing. So is Morin Entertainment lawyer, and I just scheduled a time with her, and I sat down and I just told her everything that was going on, and she did research into the company. She's like, yeah, they're like going out of business, and like this, like the head has already like stepped down, like, and finding like all the people that are in studio haven't been getting paid, and it was just, yes. The way I dealt with that situation was I got educated about it. I just had to take it as a loss, honestly, and realizing, just for those of you who don't know, like, if you're gonna start working for someone, get it in a contract. Get it in a, like, if it's in an email, it's just considered a promise, but it's not really legally binding. So get a contract and make sure you have your deposit first before you start working. But that's what I did. I just educated myself better on, oh, okay, this is how I'm supposed to run a business, you know, and get a contract. This is how you read a contract. This is how you write a contract, and this is how you make sure you get paid. So,
Ed, describe the worst employment situation you've ever been in and how you overcame it.
I would have to second, just going off of she said, the contract. Seriously, learn your legal stuff, because you know everybody's out to, you know, out for their own goal. So, you know, they want to keep their own money in their own pocket, if you know what I mean. Sorry, go ahead.
Do y'all have any sample contracts?
Yes, we do.
On the animation line?
Yes, we do.
Boom. You said. Pretty much just along the same lines. It would be working for a client who will remain nameless. Yeah, just, you know, I think the problem with this industry is that a lot of people don't understand how animation works. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure, like, a lot of people that, you know, are producers or, like, you know, out there doing this, that are kind of calling the shots, don't really know how it works. So they kind of have, like, some sort of unrealistic expectations from the artist. But I think that, again, the contract stuff is super important. Yeah, just basically how I handled the situation was I pointed to the contract. And I said, hey, this is what it says in our contract that you signed. I did my part of the bargain, send me a check. And they sent a check. So, the contracts are really important because it's the legal stuff. Because you can get screwed over pretty easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
All right. I've had my fair share of issues with contracts before, and so I think there's kind of a running theme with that. But that was actually with a graphic design company, though. So I'm going to share a different story, just to spice it up a little bit. So a couple years ago, I was the lead for one of the teams for an animation I was doing, and the guy in charge of the entire production was not an animator at all. This is his first time getting involved in animation. He put together an amazing team, and it was able to stay on top of everybody, make sure that work got completed. However, he trusted his leads to explain to him, like, hey, this is what's going on, this is how everything is, and we had to set clear expectations with him as to what we could do and what we could get done in time. So that meant that since this was all online, by the way, like the team actually never met in person, and so we had people chiming in from all over the country, a bunch of freelancers in a kind of virtual studio atmosphere. It was really cool. However, there was one time where my team had to stay up for like 2 weeks straight just to finish all the work. The budget had been depleted already, and so all these animators they just wanted to do the work. They wanted to do good cartoons for probably like $100 or $200 for 2 weeks worth of work. It sucked for them, but they were champs through all of it. And during one of our Skype meetings, the boss was commenting and it was complimenting every single team, and made it a point where he complimented every team except for mine. And that was, I had to have a talk with them afterwards because these guys they were working for pennies. They got screwed over in the contract in terms of how much they're going to get paid. And then they were screwed over also in the deadlines because they were required to get these cartoons finished on time. They were completely demoralized by the end of this 2 weeks, and I had to have a talk with the boss and tell him like what you did just completely just shattered their morale. And I can go in and I can cheer them up as much as I can, but seeing that this came straight from you, I need you to go and talk to everybody in the team and bring them back up, because they're not going to do any more work for us, and we're not going to meet our deadlines if they all quit on us. And thankfully he took what I had to say to heart and reached out to every single member of my team and said like, hey, I just want to express personally how much I appreciate you. And thankfully he did that, and we were able to finish the project on time.
So you all have said contract a billion times. Get your contracts done up front. Make sure that you have your correct payment in your contract. And if something goes wrong when you're stuck in a contract, don't be afraid to talk to the person who's in charge.
And point out stipulations in the contract.
What are some go-to techniques that you use to get a potential client, and that's a potential client, to agree to pay you for work? Now don't say contract, because you said contract. But what technique do you do? Somebody comes up to you and they're like, hey, I got this idea, you seem real talented, could you help me with my idea?
So many times.
When someone comes up to me, I just ask a lot of questions. I want to see how much they're invested in their idea. And how do I get them to agree to pay me? Sometimes, honestly, I've kind of come to a point now, it's just like, this is what I'm worth, you know? And it's like, if whatever you're working on isn't something that I'm already passionate about, then this is just kind of what my rate is. And since you're coming to me because you need my help, then you kind of have to sell me on your idea. So it's just kind of getting to that place of like, this is what I have to live, I have to eat, you know, I have things I have to do. So it's just kind of like, I'm sorry, this is not personal. It's just, this is my job, you know. So that's what I do. That's what I do.
Tell me about that dialogue.
Oh,
This is the juicy part,
See,
right? You want to know what's being said.
The one I could think of, okay, I have two instances. Okay, one I could think of, someone was telling me, oh, you know, say they want me to make a animated music video. They're a musician. They're like, oh, you know, we can make this cool, you know, it'll just be 5 minutes. It's okay. I'm like, whoa, 5 minutes.
For 6 minutes?
So sometimes they're like, yeah, I think this would be really good for us, you know, and I'll just say, well, this is my rate per minute. Oh, okay, well, I'll get back to you when I can, you know? And so sometimes I just like, okay, this is what it is. This is what you really want to work with us, this is how much it's gonna cost. And I'll just leave it at that. I won't try and convince you to hire me. Another instance is a client that I have now. They're a nonprofit, so they can't afford as much, but their message really speaks to me. It's what I want to do, you know? And it's more than just a job. It's about putting out a message. So then it's just kind of like, okay, I'm really to negotiate with you because we both have the same vision. So that's how you get. That's how I get people. So.
Ed, how do you get potential clients to say yes?
Dashing good looks and charm. I've kind of like tried to look at it from a social media standpoint, kind of like not necessarily answer the question, but go for clients you want. Like, go on Instagram or LinkedIn and be like, I like what this company is doing. I want to work with them. Go on LinkedIn, see who works there. Connect with those people, send them a message. Say, hey, look, I love your work. I'd love to work together. Here's my email. But it's not just gonna come to you. You can't just stare at that inbox and wait for a message. You know, you gotta kind of have to get out there and do it. Just go for it. Like, try and look at who's doing animation, first off. Like, if you see an animated commercial, like, ooh, that's really pretty. Who did that? You know, do your research. It's all research. You gotta get in there, you gotta dig in, and you gotta just dig up that info, because you're gonna come across names. And those names have email addresses attached to them. If you get out 100 emails, at least one of them's gonna get back to you. So that's my.
I have a question about that. Because I've sent emails before and attached like demos, and I've heard some people say don't do that because of.
She said that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. There you go. Terrible.
I guess the question is, do you attach a demo when sending an email like that and reaching out to someone, or do you wait for some sort of correspondence with them and then go, if they want a demo from you, then you send it?
I would just say, try to be cool with people. You know, I mean, they're people, dude. You know, like just like you and me. I mean, just be like, hey, what's up? I really love what you guys are doing. This particular animation insert title here, is gorgeous, and I would love to work together. See if they get back to you, and then hit them with the demo reel.
That's what I meant. Like, when you've messaged them on LinkedIn, or you've reached out to them, and then you're saying, here's my email. So when you actually send an email correspondence, because I've been told don't put demos on it because they think it's spam or
Yeah.
they don't want to open the link.
Yeah, honestly.
So you say, here's my website, maybe.
Yeah.
It's got my demos on it.
Yeah, I mean, I would honestly wait for a response, mainly because they're going to, if they like, if they possibly looked at, because they're going to look into you. If you're emailing somebody and they go, hey, this guy said something really nice about our studio. Who is this guy? Or girl, sorry. Yeah, I would just try and be personal about it, talk to people like you would like to be talked to. Like, everybody doesn't want to be a sales pitch in their email box, So, that's my biggest advice. Just kind of.
Can I jump on that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah, no, it's alright. There's actually one thing I wanted to add to that is a lot of times, like with me, if I don't mention the demo reel in like the base of the email, like in my signature, I will have it underneath there where I'll have like my name, my phone number, and then my website address. And that way, like, I'm not pointing out, like, here's where you can see my work, but it's available to them, and if they're curious or interested enough, they can go check it out. But I'm not pointing it out, but it's an easy enough area to find it. And I found that that's worked really well for me. Back to you there.
I did actually have an additional question to that. In that process of, say you've gotten cool with people and you're at that point where they're like, hey, let me see some of your ideas. How do you make sure, what is that process of making sure that your idea isn't just going to be pitched, taken in and ran off with by the individual that you're pitching it to? Not to say that that happens, but I mean, if you've got a good idea that you really want to push, and you're constantly introducing it to people, you're constantly telling people about it, what is that process of protecting your idea when pitching it or when introducing it to potential people that you want to work with?
NDAs.
Anyone?
NDAs and contracts. A non-disclosure agreement, which is basically like a gag order for artists. So you can't talk about the project or release any information to anybody. So just have them sign one of those, and yeah.
But then,
where does that process come in? It's like you've reiterated getting cool with people.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird to, hey, bro, we're cool, and now suddenly that's signing this NDA.
So like for me, for instance, when I was talking earlier about how like I would go to events and parties and just chill with some of the other cartoonists. Like I have like a whole list of comic book ideas I want to do, and sometimes it's just more of like, hey, dude, I have to tell you about this comic idea I have. And sometimes it's a matter of trust, but to also kind of back that up too, like whenever I come up with ideas for it, like I like to talk about it online. I like to be able to kind of, in a way, like postmark, like, hey, this is when I started this idea, and I'll have on my own website like personal sketches of what I've done, or maybe some example pages of it. So, like, I have a really cool idea right now of, it's a webcomic of a kid who wants to grow facial hair. They're cursed with the inability to grow facial hair, so they go around beating up people who do have facial hair and stealing their powers. It's a really fun, stupid little comic, and I posted up about 24 pages for it online, so if I see anything similar to that, like a couple years down the road, I'm like, oh, I remember telling that person at the bar about that. I basically have like...
Wait a second.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. Well, first off, I'm like, well, hey, A, that idea was good enough to actually become a thing. But B, I'm able to have like records of like, this is when I started having this idea, and I would be able to bring it up to them. I haven't had that happen yet, but that's been kind of my way to protect myself, is having like clear records of like when I started talking about a new idea of mine.
I want to add to that. I don't know. Go ahead, Davonne.
Oh no, I just saw
We'll get you in a
else
second,
say
dude. Don't worry.
I want to add to that. So there are like 5 answers to your question.
Sorry, dude.
Because there's several answers to your question, because those situations come up in various ways. One, where you're talking to your friends and sharing your ideas. Another, where the NDA, because you want to talk to a professional, and you don't want that professional to take off with your idea and never pay you any money. So it depends on the situation. But number one, if you really feel that your idea could be something great and you want to work on it, you need to work on it and get IP protection. All right?
Just
IP,
do it. Yeah.
Intellectual property. And Davonne mentioned what's the lady's name?
Maureen.
Lee Morin. So she is an art and intellectual property attorney. And you can find out more information through my Animation Life and follow up with Davonne. And so what you do is you copyright your work and work on the project. When you want to include other people who can bring and collaborate and can bring something to the project, then that's when you include them in, and there may be an NDA, or there may be where you now have a deal in mind that you want to present them. But you don't just pitch your idea trying to get somebody interested in following up. Now, there are studios who are always looking for submissions. They have rules about what happens when you submit, and you have to be careful to read those rules, because when you submit something, and those rules, they say that if later on there's a project that they greenlight that looks very similar to yours, you can't cry about it because they have it in their rules. So you approaching as a creator, approaching somebody else to work with you, it has very different situations, and you have to consider what you want out of this interaction. But overall, the best way to protect yourself is to get a copyright, get an attorney, trademark that stuff, spend the money up front now. If you really believe in that project and you really believe you have something, then protect it now. Later on, worry about what's going to happen later on. And if you find your artwork somewhere else, well, now you have legal backup to go ahead and confront that.
Yep. No, I think we did have a question. From
he's over there.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, wow.
Come on in.
Hey, everybody. Okay. Well, first, you need a bearded guy for your character to beat up on you.
All right.
I did have a question, because I feel like this approach to doing like different projects and whatnot is more so based on personality. And I know I've gotten like a lot of advice on how to go about this, but I would like to see you guys' whole take on it. So when it comes to projects and whatnot, when it comes to dealing with clients, I know there's a lot of times like deadlines and whatnot that that they have. And I know like a lot of times when it comes to projects that people present, it's kind of like this thing where like you kind of hype about the project in the beginning. But as the process of doing projects and stuff go on, it's just like, bro, this is a drag. I'm getting sick of this. So my question to y'all is like, what process do y'all take to stay motivated to complete a project at the appropriate time? Do you have like outside sources that keep you motivated to actually complete a project, or are there projects that you kind of just give up on? You just like, hey, just call the client like, hey, yo, bro, like this, I can't do it. So yeah, just want y'all take on that.
Yes, I have been there. I know one of the clients that I had last year, it was for an interactive animation exhibit for the California State Museum. And I was working with another artist that it was very difficult. And I remember many times where I'm like, I just want to give this client back their money and just say, I'm done. I'm just so tired of this. And really for me, I'm a person of faith, so I listen to a lot of my like gospel music, honestly. It really just keeps me thinking, it just really keeps my spirits up. So that's something that I like to do. It really, really does help. And then I have a circle of friends, that I go to, and I just like a word vomit everything that's going on. And I'm like, okay, now I'm ready, And I think it's also thinking about, I think a lot about like what kind of person am I going to be, and I want to be a person that finishes what I complete. So, yeah, I don't know if that helps at all, but
yeah, I don't know what you guys.
So staying inspired, what we're talking about, and moving forward. Yeah, dude, I would just say really just trying to stay positive and mix it up. Don't just do animation, because it's a very small part of art and creativity as a whole. Definitely experiment. Dude, if you want to put paint on your hand and smear it on a canvas, go for it. You're the creative. You get to do that. You know, you have your own permission to be creative. So I think it's just finding that, refinding that passion. You know, it's hard to, because you lose it. It's easy to lose. You know, people get depressed. You know, so it's really important to just kind of try and stay positive and find things that make you happy. It doesn't necessarily have to be drawing or anything. You could play the guitar or, you know, whatever, really. But yeah, it's just, you know, stay positive and keep moving forward, really.
Play around.
Play around is what, is what he just said. Yeah. So I guess the first part of the question was like, how do you, you know, just finish the project, right? So one of the big things that I got from Archer was one of my previous directors had he had a catchphrase called "green it and move on," where sometimes you could be just working on something, you just absolutely hate it, and you just don't want to be finishing it anymore. But his idea was that you just sometimes have to say, like, you know, like, this is where it can be right now. You do what you can on it and just move on to the next step of it. And so if you're in animation, for instance, if you're working on like a frame like in the middle of the animation that is just not working the way you need it to, sometimes just do the best you can with it and start working on the frame immediately following it and just keep going. And then later, once you actually start doing some more fun frames, like later on in the animation, you might have that motivation again to go back to that frame that you hated, and you might touch it up. Now, if you want to also kind of jump outside of the animation, like myself, for instance, like if I'm just really tired on doing any piece of artwork for anybody, I still like to do something to get my mind off of it, but still keep myself, you know, I guess, exercising my artistic skills. So so that way I can return to the animation or to the project feeling pretty good with my skills. So I actually got something with me here. Will you mind holding it for a second?
Yes, sir.
Pickle Rick.
I'm a pickle!
So yeah, one of the things, I have these artist trading cards that I do. And a lot of times, like, I just spend about 15-20 minutes on each card. And a lot of times, like, if I just need to I have a whole book of them right here.
Do you want us to hold it?
Yeah, I got some magic cards in there too, so this slip out and flip up. So yeah, these are just a lot of cards that I do for fun. I do commissions for these cards as well too. And if I ever just need to step away for my work for maybe about 20 minutes, I just choose whatever character is interesting to me at the moment, and I draw them. Like we got Pickle Rick right here. And I have a lot of Nintendo characters in there. Like I have a lot of fun doing Nintendo characters. I throw them in. Yeah, the Portal one's pretty fun. So yeah, this way I'm still able to stay artistic. I just step away from the project for 20 minutes, and I come back to it. All right? Oh, we got another question.
You go ahead and add.
I just want to add one more thing. One thing that also helps is like if you make intermittent like deadlines while you're working on your project. I know for me it could be a drag when thinking about, oh, I have all this to do and I'm just this far along. But if I make smaller goals, and once I start hitting those, that makes you feel good, like, oh, I've been productive, I'm getting things done, and it can kind of like build momentum and makes you feel like, yeah, I can get this done.
Keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other part.
So when you're starting out, like as an artist in general, you get asked a lot to do a lot of free work. I've been told by some to like take any free work that you can, whether it's gonna help you out or not, just to do it. And then I've been told by others to like always demand to be paid, even if like you don't know what you're doing. And like I try to strike a balance, but you know, just depending on the person that approaches me, sometimes it's hard to understand like which one's appropriate and which one I should do, because sometimes I agree to do something and then it's asking of a lot more than I'm willing to do like for free, where it's getting in the way of like school or work or something like that. So how would you handle it?
Don't work for free. Don't work for free. Unless it's family. Don't work for free. I mean, really?
Do you want the
Oh,
mic?
I'm
Do you
sorry.
need the mic?
That's all I had to say.
Well, actually, I got something to say about this once you're finished.
Yeah, kind of what I was saying, like, you know, because you also have to think about the animation community is a very small community, so it's like, one thing I've noticed is that, you know, once people are willing to do things for free or for very, very, very cheap, you know, people start to think, oh, I can get this animation for very, very cheap, you know, but no, we work very hard, you know, and what we do has worth. So, yeah, I would be very careful about taking free work or doing work for free.
Do work for yourself for free. You know, like do your own personal stuff.
Here, you want to say it?
Sorry. Do your own personal stuff for free. Like, that's what you gotta, like, draw. Like, just draw everything, like, people, you know, still lifes and stuff like that. But, yeah, I would recommend not working for free, because you get into sticky situations, you know?
Yeah. Well, like, I'm a firm believer that if somebody values their project, they'll value your work, and they'll be willing to pay you money for it. That said, though, there were only 2 times in the last year that I did free work, but even though I wasn't getting paid financially, like, I still felt like I was getting something from it. And no, I wasn't getting exposure from it. That's you know, like that's just an excuse people sometimes say if they want to be able to give you a free project. But one was for somebody who had helped me out personally for like the last 5 or 6 years. And when they mentioned that they wanted like an illustration of their mom for Christmas, I was more than happy to jump on that project because, you know, this was a close and dear friend to me who had done so many more favors for me than I've done for him. So I kind of felt like I was giving back to him for all the stuff he was helping me out with. Number 2, though, was all I'm allowed to say is that, you know, it was because of NDAs and everything. There's going to be a live-action movie coming out sometime in 2018 that has about 3 minutes of animation to it. And a group of friends and I worked on that animation for free simply because we wanted to be able to have a movie title under our names. And we all went into the project, and these weren't just, you know, people fresh out of SCAD or anything. Like, these were people who worked for like Floyd County. I think we had somebody from Bento from it, and just people just jumping in on it because we wanted that movie credit, and we wanted to be able to see our names like in the credits at the end of the movie. So for us, we were willing to give up 2 weeks of our year to be able to do that project, and we also made sure that the director was clear with that, you know, like, we're going to give you what we can for the amount that you're going to be giving us. And so if you're not really too thrilled with that at the end, then maybe if you find some money to give us, you know, great, but we have to do, you know, we have other jobs we got to get taken care of as well. So even though it's not exactly exposure, like, I still felt like I was getting something from the transaction, just not, you know, just not money out of it. Yeah, that's not exposure to movie.
I'm a graphic designer and illustrator. I've been doing it for years, and so I've decided that I want to go into storyboarding, which I've done for at ad agencies. So as I pull my work together, I'm also you know, picking up some education at KSU and this. And I'm wondering, how important is it for me to be familiar with animation as a storyboard artist?
So as somebody who makes his living off of doing storyboards and animatics, I would say it's very important because you need to be able to understand like what can be done with the animation. And so if you have, like there was one time where I did a storyboard for somebody where I had some weird camera pans, camera zooms in and out in a way that the you know, just the animators could not produce. And if I knew a little bit more about the programs that they were using, I wouldn't have made that mistake at the beginning, and I wouldn't have had to go back and basically redo everything. However, that didn't mean that I have to be like, you know, as good of an animator as the rest of the team, but just a base understanding of what you can what you can expect the animators to do with your work. So, another follow-up question?
Yeah.
All right.
So I know that there are several storyboard softwares out there and a component of it is animation, where you can have the visuals come in and out, spin them. I'm just now starting to look into it, but is that enough? Or should I sign up for animation classes because I want to be doing storyboarding?
I would say, I take it you're probably mostly familiar with Photoshop and Illustrator, correct? I would just recommend, have a nice weekend, Adobe, because Adobe, Illustrator, and Photoshop all come in the same suite, and so you should be able to pick up, Adobe Flash / Animate with it. I would just say, just have a fun weekend. Just you open it up and you just play and you explore with the program. You have a nice cup of tea next to you. Just enjoy and just discover and have fun. And that doesn't mean you have to produce your own thing out of it. It's just you're familiar with what the program can do. And so if you're giving a storyboard to your team, you can at least say that you have a day or two of just kind of playing with Flash. And I hope that answered your question here.
I don't think so.
Okay. I think I misunderstood the question then. If you we can ask it one more time here. Would you mind repeating the question then?
Okay. My question is, so I've done storyboards many years ago, and I want to get back into it, and that's all I'm really interested in doing. So I'm wondering my skill sets. Should I be self-teaching myself or signing up with a school to learn animation, or will the software programs for storyboarding take care of that? I mean, I'm assuming that if you're going to be a storyboard artist, your illustration skills are the most important. Okay?
Yes.
And then the animation is something that I should be able to provide at least through a storyboarding software, like Storyboard Artist, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, do I need to go further and learn animation like you guys do as a single person? I'm not talking, because I'm not an organization of 2 or 3 people. I am one person. That's my business.
I would recommend doing what you can. Sorry.
Yeah.
I would recommend doing what you can with what you got. I mean, if you have the money to go to school, go for it. If you don't, YouTube's a really good option because you can pretty much learn anything on YouTube.
And My Animation Life. They have
and
lots
My Animation Life, of course.
Yes.
But yeah, software. There's Toon Boom Storyboard Pro.
Yeah, Storyboard Pro.
Yeah, Toon Boom Storyboard Pro, which is pretty great. But film language is the most important. Watch a lot of movies. And by film language, I mean how people talk about film, shot sizes, just lingo that's attached to it. Learn how all that works. Watch a lot of movies, watch cartoons, you know?
So I kind of feel like I would be less competitive if I didn't know it, or am I
yes.
worrying about something I shouldn't worry about? I mean, not worry, but be concerned about.
I guess I can give a quick answer to that here. It's not needed. I did lots of storyboards before I figured out how to be able to do animation like the rest of the team could. But it does make you a more competitive storyboard artist to be able to say that you have these skills behind you. However, they're not always necessary. It mostly depends on what the client is looking for, and I would say you can definitely do storyboards with what you have right now. It would just make yourself a more viable and more competitive storyboard artist with those skills behind you.
Following with her question, and this goes for a lot of the internships for college students that especially for the public university systems outside of SCAD and the other art institutions, there seems to be a very big issue in regards to getting animation and art internships. Is there a void in communication between these universities in what's needed to get into the field?
Probably.
Okay, so I'm gonna try and answer this question the best way, just from my own experience. So I went to SCAD, well, I'm still at SCAD, I'm finishing my master's, and when I sat down with my career advisor, they just told me that, SCAD's reputation is based on whether or not you get the job. So she made it clear to me, like, it's her job to make sure I get a job. So, and when I talk to other students, they're like, we had no idea that that's what they're supposed to be doing, And I'm like, so I think there's also like a lapse in communication of like, even what the students should be expecting from their career advisors and holding their career advisors to that standard. And then, yeah, there seems to be a lapse because I know that most of the time when I do speak to other students that go to different schools about resources, I'm telling them about my animation life and ASIFA and all these other programs that they've never heard of. So I guess, yes, there seems to be a lapse in communication between the schools and what's available and the studios, but then also like the students knowing like what they should be able to get from their advisors or from the school. I don't know if you guys have maybe.
I would say that. Sorry, I just had a brain fart. I had it. It was there. Lost it. Education systems make money. Lots of money. And it depends on what you want to put your time and money, really. If you want to spend 4 years going to school, you're going to learn a hell of a lot. There's great places for slackers like me, kind of force you to do it. But I would say, if you've got motivation, if you've got drive, the internet is a wonderful place to learn, honestly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's get her the mic.
Juggle the mic.
Yeah, I was hoping if I could just add something to that commentary. I also went to SCAD, and the career advisors there are great, but if I could also recommend that just networking with your fellow students because they're going into the same industry as you is an incredible and completely underrated resource. I'd say about 85 to 90% of the jobs that I've gotten on the industry, aside from just applications and networking alone, talking to people that I've gone to class with has gotten me more jobs than I ever thought could be possible. Because yes, you're going into the same industry as them and you're competing with them, but animation is a very team-oriented industry. So if you think of them as more like just professional friends and their potential teammates, they can really bring you on to jobs that you thought you would never be able to get into.
Yeah.
I guess I went to SCAD for grad school as well, and I unfortunately did not get acquainted with my career advisor, and that's something I wish that I did. However, it still worked out well for me, just not as like I had a more rough ride than it should have been, I guess. But SCAD's interesting because it's a name brand school. Like my dad is an accountant. He doesn't know anything about the animation industry, but he knows about SCAD. All of his clients know about SCAD. And so I guess to go to the original question of like the lack of communication between more public universities and these animation industries, I used to see that. Where I would see like all these studios would have nothing but SCAD students to the point where it felt like it just kind of felt like SCAD 2.0. However, recently I've been starting to be able to see a lot more animators pop up because they realize they need to they need to get their voices heard, and they've been doing so. So I've been seeing more animators popping up more with freelance opportunities around Atlanta. And like a few have been popping up at places like over at Floyd County and at Bento, and they're starting to be able to hire more non-SCAD animators. So I see it shifting, but there definitely is kind of a lack of communication. But that's kind of fixing itself, it seems like, especially with more events like this. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I am breaking the floor.
Following back up with your father's commentary about people knowing that SCAD, in quotations,
Yep.
SCAD is the #1 in Atlanta as quality #1. Why is it then that other schools like KSU, like Georgia Tech, like other universities with art programs aren't matching up with that quality check?
So the question is, like SCAD is kind of known as like the #1 for Atlanta for art, and like why, like, and people are assuming #1 means quality, and so why are other universities, like why do other universities don't have that, I guess that reputation there? And I would say a lot of it would be because of the fact that SCAD is nothing but art. While like at Kennesaw, for instance, you have people who are there for like I guess for history majors. You're gonna have political science majors. You're gonna have majors all over the board. And so whenever people hear of Kennesaw, even though it has an amazing art program, it just doesn't have the reputation because I think they're just not strictly an art school. That said, when it comes to applying to a lot of these studios, your portfolio and your demo reel will speak for you better than where you went to school. And I will get to you in just a minute. It's Stacy, right? Cool. I'll get you in just 1 second here. I went to Virginia Commonwealth University for undergrad. That was up in Richmond, Virginia. And one of the greatest skill sets that I learned from that was I was able to interact with all of these other people who have no idea how to do art. Like from like we had people who were forensic science majors. We had biochemistry majors, and a lot of times these are the ones who they can't do art themselves. They may have a project that requires art, and so they would then ask me to do the job for them. So going to a public university actually really helped me out. Because these other artists, because these non-artists needed someone to do the work, and I was their only person, I was their only friend who could do said work.
So my question's again about demo reel. I'm in the process of putting my demo reel together. I focus mainly Cinema 4D and 3D animation, and I feel that I have a strength in design, character rigging, animation, and the lighting, but not like textures and texture mapping and all that stuff. So when I'm putting together my demo reel, how important is it to put together, sort of like the gentleman in the middle said, kind of do everything yourself? I feel that I tried to do that, but how important is it to have a complete scene compared to here is my strengths and here is, the limits of my ability compared to here's what I can kind of do and it kind of looks okay, but it brings the rest of my product down. So where's the middle ground in there?
So, thank you for your question. I would say that it really depends on what are you trying to get hired for. I know that for me, my specialty is animation, but I can do rigging, I can do character designs, I can do illustrations and backgrounds. But when I show my demo reel, I don't show any of those things because I'm trying to get hired as an animator. And so it's just kind of thinking about how are you trying to market yourself. I've spoken with multiple have interviews before where they just say, well, what do you want to do? We just see a lot of things in your portfolio. So tell us what that is, So if you're working at a larger studio, they kind of just want to be able to put you in this one spot. So if you want to get hired as a lighter, then you show that you are the best lighter ever, and that's what you're interested in, and you're probably not going to try and hop around a lot. But if you're at a smaller studio, you know, it'll be okay to show that you're more of a generalist, but that you still have a main focus. So if there's something that you're really weak in, I would just probably take it out altogether. But yeah, so it's just kind of tailoring how do you want to brand yourself and where you're trying to get work.
I'm just gonna. You could also have multiple demo reels. Like you could have one that's like a general one, and then another one that is, you know, specifically lighting as well. So you can have more than one demo reel.
Yeah. Just get it done. But no, I would again stress what you guys said about finding your best work and putting that in there. But get it done as soon as possible, because the demo reel is always going to change. You're going to have new stuff to put in it, and you'll probably have a new reel by, you know, a couple years down the road, like entirely new. So I would just make sure, focus on honestly just getting shit done, honestly, just moving forward.
I think we had a question over here.
Hey, this question is for the panelists, but also if anyone in the audience has an answer, that'd be good too. So we hire a lot of contract animators, artists, 3D people especially, and I'm just curious as to where you guys are looking for jobs for local and you know, non-local stuff. So for contract positions.
So the question was, you know, where are you? I guess where you're applying for these jobs.
Yeah, job boards.
For me, most of the time it's just, you know, word of mouth. Like I make contacts at events, and like sometimes like I may work on a project with somebody, and then 6 months later, you know, I might drop them a line and say like, hey, you know, I had a lot of fun working in this project with you. You know, I'd love to have fun again. Is there anything available or anything coming up? Because I have a free schedule. But to get to that point in the first place, a lot of it was just simply networking through in-person events. I know that my strength is, you know, in person. I really need to step up my online social media game. But I at least know where my strength is, and that's in person, and I use it to the best of my ability.
I go back to LinkedIn. Just look up those companies, because if you click on that company, it's gonna show you who works there and what they do there. So you can click on the director. You're like, hey, what's up, man? I really love your work. You know, we're a bunch of people there. But yeah, definitely network, especially personal, like interaction. Especially when you know you got a good personality and people and a good attitude. People really respond very well to positivity. So. Definitely have a good attitude when you're working on anything, really.
Everything they said is very, very true. I have to say that I rarely actually applied for a job. It was more of like, hey Davonne, we need somebody. Email this person, you know, and I was like, oh, okay, you know. So that may seem like very counterintuitive in terms of like, you know, really going after it, but I kind of went through that stage, and I just kind of got to a point where it caused a lot of like stress and anxiety, and it just kind of like, I'm also not big on social media. So, and I'm definitely like a face-to-face kind of person, so definitely events like this, but I have to honestly say that this past year, I can't really take any credit of my own effort in terms of like actually searching and looking for the job. It just kind of came to me, and I spent just a lot of time, again, I was just praying, like, God, I need some work. And literally, I would just get a message in my Facebook, or someone would text me, or they'll forward me an email. I was like, oh, okay. Thank you, God, you know, thank you. But it was just it made the process easier when I took a lot of that pressure off of me. But it's definitely already have those relationships also established. So, yeah.
Real quick, can I say one thing? Sometimes you have to do things to get noticed by the show you want to work on. So, for instance, who's a fan of Bob's Burgers here? A lot of people. So about a year ago, an animator, just a random freelance animator, did Bob's Burgers meets Archer, where using sound bites found from both shows had a short where the characters of Archer ended up walking into Bob's Burgers restaurant, and it was a pretty funny cartoon that ended up getting a job offer for that cartoonist. And then with Game Grumps, for instance, Game Grumps has a lot of animated cartoons, and a lot of them come from just animators doing a Game Grumps cartoon for fun. That got them noticed, and then they got the job. So sometimes you just have to do the work first, and sometimes the job offer will come second. So, you had the question first?
Well, not really a question, but an answer to the gentleman's. Where do you find these artists? There are a few different resources that are at your disposal, and from a game developer to a producer. Reddit is an excellent tool for mass communication among many different artists.
What is it?
Tumblr, if you really want to just get to specifics. I find DeviantArt excellent because it's a designated art site, and I found through networking as well as posting on their forums is excellent to find artists and be able to review over, and you'll get messages, so it's pretty good. And then the final one, pretty much the crown jewel of artists finding, ArtStation, because that's where ArtStation, because a lot of the best artists in the world post their work and they want themselves noticed across international, and like High Res, Blizzard, and other game companies as well as animation studios. I'm sure FX uses them. That's where they find a lot of international artists off the bat.
I had a question to ask. Currently, I guess you could say I have a more traditional 9-to-5 job, and I think one of the things that I want to do is transition into what my passion is. I would love to hopefully one day work for Pixar or ILM as a character animator. One of the biggest fears that I have leaving the 9-to-5 is some of those jobs. I've heard that they may not be stable. Let's just say when The Last Jedi finishes, what's the next project? And Cars 3 is over, what's the next deal you go to? So my question is, as someone who is transitioning into a character animation type job at a studio like Pixar or ILM or someplace like that, is it unrealistic to expect those types of jobs to be as stable as your traditional, safe 9-to-5, or do you have to go into it with the mindset that you will be possibly moving to other states to find that type of job?
So, I guess the whole title of this panel is Thriving in an Unstable Industry, and it's very unstable, and sometimes the best way to plan things is to have at least two things going on at a time, so when one ends, you're still kind of working on the other. When I was at Archer, for instance, that was my first time I ever worked in the animation industry, and I was very green at it. And at the end of season 5, we were doing two shows, Chosen and Archer, and Chosen got canceled. So about 40% of our studio got laid off in a single day, and that was rough. Thankfully, I had a lot of friends who helped me through it, giving me some motivation and everything. And when season 6 came back up, we were working on a pilot for another show that had a lot of money being brought back into the studio, and we were called back because they'll remember, because a lot of times when companies will try to bring in new employees when they can, they usually try to bring in the ones that they know will be a good fit for the studio, people who already know how to do the style, because you don't have to spend a lot of money training them again. And so I got my job back a second time. At the end of season 6, same thing happened. And they told me hey, we're not sure we can bring you back for season 7, and it sucked, but I was prepared this time. At the end of season 7, same thing happened again, but it ended up with me just walking into the boss's office, and he was like, "See you in the future?" And I was like, "See you in the future." And I actually didn't return to that because I got a job offer through Cyanide and Happiness, and that was too busy for me to be able to return to Archer. But eventually you just kind of learn, like, eventually these jobs will end, and it's good to be able to have a second thing that you're working on to kind of balance it out.
I totally agree, 100%. I think it's, kind of interesting to think that, a 9 to 5 is stable. Because you could lose that real quick too, dude. But it's really, you just gotta kind of always be hustling, man. You gotta be grinding on whatever and just putting out content. Because that's how it's gonna get seen. And if you wanna work at Pixar, aim high, dude. Because why? I mean, what do you got to lose? Like, really, like, go for it. That's all I gotta say. Seriously.
More of what they said. Yes, it's very much unstable. And I know that for me, sometimes I used to work in catering before I was in animation, so it was like one of those kind of jobs where I could just easily just pick it up in between hiatuses. But it's also like just having that in your mindset that they give you a estimated date that you're going to be working until, so just kind of like making sure you're budgeting your money to kind of like know that, okay, maybe this dry area here, but I think, yeah, it's just try to stay motivated. And that's just kind of the industry, even when you're working at a unless you're, I guess, in-house at a studio, but even then it just depends on what projects are coming in.
So, there's one.
Go
You
for
can add first.
I would just like to add, basically, totally forgot what I was going to say again. But I'm going to let you go. 'Cause I totally forgot what I was going to say.
Well, I was going to say that, like the first time that happened to me, it was very demoralizing because I was thinking, like, what could I have done differently? What could I have done to keep my job? What could I have done to be part of that 60%? And recently, I've actually been going through Star Trek The Next Generation. I've just been streaming that in the last couple weeks, and great show. And one of my favorite quotes that applied to the issues that I had with losing my job and getting back, losing again, was Captain Picard was talking to Data and explaining to him that I'm going to try getting this quote as right as I can. He said that sometimes you can do everything right and still lose. And sometimes you could be doing everything right at your studio and still be part of the crew that gets cut. And that has no reflection on you as an animator. And don't let that demoralize you. Don't let that make you feel like, oh no, I'll never get another job again. Because you got to remember that you had that job in the first place. And that means that you can get it again. Your foot's in the door, you're in the industry. Things get a lot easier after you get that first job. You remember?
I think I remember now.
Wow. Yeah, dude. Oh, thank you.
But yeah, just don't focus primarily on one thing. Again, with like creativity, you can make money selling your prints. You can make money, painting a sign for somebody. There's ways to make money as an artist that aren't necessarily just animation. Animation will be your bread and butter, but there's other ways to do it. You just got to kind of think outside the box.
Now we had the question from the gentleman in the corner, right?
I'm going to add to that. Budgeting is very important. So when you're making money, don't spend it like you got the money. Spend it like you may not have a job in a few months. It's really important to have some sort of account where you're saving and planning for things like your health, a home, a car. Think about your future. A lot of artists, when they get their job, they begin living the lifestyle of the stereotypical artist, where they hang out with their friends, they go to dinners and restaurants, and they don't budget. So make sure you're always putting money to the side. So if you don't have a job for 6 months or so, it's fine. When I separated from Archer, working with Chris, I had 2 years worth of savings, so it was fine.
Damn.
And this will be our last question until our break.
All right.
He didn't ask a question.
Hi. My name is Joshua Porter, and I'm in Fort Brooke. my teacher, she was like, oh, you can't use work that's already been recreated. But I was confused because I'm like, if we're trying to go in these industries, shouldn't we show them that we know how to make their styles or something like that?
That's a good question.
I think that is a really good question.
I don't know why it's doing that.
So I've only overheard of some instances where it's more of like a matter of the content of, how do I want to phrase this? Sometimes when you show your reel to some studios, like say Floyd County, like Archer that's an adult cartoon. So say like if everything you do is kind of like, I don't know, very kid friendly or something, they may be a concern of like, are you okay with working on this content? But overall, the working your reel or your portfolio needs to show that you understand art, you understand animation, you understand weight, you understand color, if it's illustrated, that you know how to do the job. Because once you get into the studio, they're gonna give you a style guide of how to draw their character and how to stay on model. And and then some studios, they actually give you a test. So I don't know exactly which part of animation you're thinking of. I know there's an illustration test and there's always an animation test. I know when I did apply for a studio, they sent me an animation test and they give me a whole guideline of this is how we like our animation to be, So first my reel, my own style got me in the door, and they sent me a test. Okay, now show us that you can match our style. But they gave me all the tools I needed to kind of help me along.
I would say, it's really. Oh, sorry. I would say, school and a studio setting's different, but learn to draw all sorts of different characters. Don't just stick to one style. Like, learn to draw everything, really. And that's how you're gonna get better with drawing. It'll show.
Like a lot of times you could even ask the studio, like, what are you looking for in your portfolio? Like, and a lot of times they will actually appreciate hearing that because it shows that you're interested in catering your skills to be able to produce what they need you to produce. Like at Floyd County, for instance, a lot of times like they would also like to see figure drawing in addition to animation because those proportions were so more realistic than a lot of other cartoon shows that if you understood how the body works as a machine, you'd be a much better illustrator for Archer. And so anybody who would ask that ahead of time would have some samples of figure drawing inside of their portfolio. And then they would also still give you, like a lot of studios will still give you a test to make sure that you can do the style, just like she said. And my biggest recommendation is that if you ever do a test for a studio, ask for some feedback on it too, because one of the big parts of working in an animation studio is working with the feedback you get from your superiors. So if you draw a character for the studio you want, what's a show you would love to work on?
Too many.
All right, let's use Bob's Burgers as an example here. So let's say you apply for Bob's Burgers and you're tasked with drawing Bob, and you do, but it's a little slightly off, and then they give you some feedback on it. Like maybe you do the hands wrong, maybe you do maybe the face is slightly off. If they give you some feedback on it, ask if you could do the test again. You apply the feedback from the first time. And then if you show it to them and if you fix the issues, they will like that because that's precisely what goes on in the studio on a daily basis. And they'll be able to see like, hey, this is somebody we can work with. This is somebody that will be able to take feedback and apply it. So that's part of the test. It's not just drawing in the style, but working with the team.
So before we wrap up this segment, I'd like for each of you to tell our attendees where they can find you online, how they can contact you if you have like an email address that you'd like to share. And if you are looking for talent for a current project, please let them know what kind of talent you're looking for. If you're teaching a class or a workshop or something where you'd like to interact with them, please let them know.
So you can contact me at my website. It's DavonneDupart.com. It's just my name, but I have some flyers up here that have my email on the back. So I'm gonna pass those out, or you can come up here and grab them. And you know, lately some of the projects I've been getting, I really need people who are good at rigging, like rigging in Toonboom or even in Maya. It's just kind of like one of those skill sets that's just so valuable. So especially if you have that skill set, you know, contact me about that. So.
You can find me on Instagram and LinkedIn, obviously. But Instagram handle is at the dope, DOHP. My email address is hogwashanimation@gmail.com. HOGWASH animation. I'm not gonna spell that one. You guys should know that. At Gmail, yeah. Toss me an email if you don't want critiques, whatever. You want some advice, hit me up. I'm usually on Instagram, so yeah.
All right, and you can find my work at surfdogart.com. It's SURFDOGART. My email address is surfdogart@me.com. That's ME. And for social media, it's pretty much Surf Dog Art for everything, whether it's like Twitter or Facebook. Instagram is the only one that's off because somebody else got to the name before I did. Always happens. And that one is surf_dog_art. So that's the only one that's different. Oh, it's surfdogart@me.com. All right, thank you.
Let's give Davonne Dupart, Ed Jacoby, and Chris Malone a round of applause. Thank you again for sharing your information with everyone today. We will be having a break, but before then, I have a special surprise treat for all of you. We haven't done this before, so we have some featured attendees in the crowd, some industry people, and we'd like to introduce them and have them talk a little bit about who they are, so that when you are having your break, you can also talk to them. All right? We'll have our featured attendees come up, all three. We'll have you guys slide out.
All right.
All right. Right here. Right here. Go ahead, flow right on in.
I don't know if I feel right about this.
All right.
And I'll let you introduce yourselves for
Real
like a minute.
official.
Talk about what you're looking for from the attendees, if you have projects coming up, if you have opportunities.
All right. Well, since you're handing me the microphone first, hi everybody. My name is Bob Carter. Some of you might already know me, Hayden. I am the voice of Shao Kahn in Baraka in Mortal Kombat, the voice of Balrog in Street Fighter, the Iron Guard in Destiny 2, which was recorded here in Atlanta. Let's see, BoJack and Dragon Ball Z. Of course, Dragon Ball FighterZ is about to drop, right? Yeah.
It's been so long since I've snapped someone's neck.
And a few other artists, a few other characters, many other characters that you guys might know. Sid Curtis from Full Metal Alchemist, One Star Dragon from Dragon Ball GT as well. So anyway, I've got a studio here in Atlanta, right outside the perimeter, just off of Jimmy Carter. We're called the Neighborhood Studio, where we're a teaching and production studio. We help aspiring creatives become working creatives. And we've done a decent job of staying open now for about 18 months, going on 19 months. I'm happy about that. We've got more projects coming on board. Thank you very much. And so for 2018, we've got a video game that we're working on. We've got, right now it's a radio drama, but it's about to become an animation drama, which is why I'm here to check out some people and see what kind of talent you guys have. And we're also looking for interns as well. In addition to that, if you guys are interested in getting into voiceover, feel free to take our card and look us up. If you're affiliated with ASIFA, then you're going to get the best deal that we've ever offered to anybody as far as workshops go. It's on ASIFA's Facebook page. And if you're not affiliated with Azifa, you should be. And that's about everything for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Look, I'm sitting here next to talent right here. So my name is Dan. I mentioned earlier Artist King, and that is one of the passions that I have is to see artists succeed doing what they like to do. I'm also leading Adobe User Group. It's a meetup that gets together the second Saturday of the month. We're always looking for artists, illustrators, designers to come and share some of their knowledge. So if there's something that you have, something that you know that you want to come in and share with the community, then get at me. I'm looking for people who know how to do Premiere, After Effects, things like that to share and hold. All the classes are free, and our purpose is to just see talent, develop their talent further so they can become business people. I'm always looking for great artists to hang out with and collaborate. I like working on lots of projects, digital and traditional. So just get at me. I do have some stickers, so if you ask me for a sticker today, I'll let you have one. And my only piece of advice that I have to give everybody is that educate yourself in the business. Some of the questions today were great. Follow up on that. Educate yourself so that you can cut down that time between learning how to be an entrepreneur and start making that money so that you can live and succeed in your career. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Tiffany Rishel-Droke, and as I mentioned before, I am a 2D animator specializing in character animation, and I'm branching into character design as well. And I graduated from SCAD. I've worked with Davonne. I've worked on a lot of people in the industry, and I've been working since 2013. And I recently just finished up some work on Squidbillies from Adult Swim. So what I'm looking for right now actually is a job. So how you doing? But I am also an animation mentor for my animation life. So I have noticed that there's a lot of students in the crowd. And if you're interested in talking to me either after this event or if you just want some feedback on your portfolio, definitely talk to Elisa Lewis about that, and then we can get a little Skype meetup setting, and we'll kind of chat it out. But if I have any advice for you guys as far as like getting into the industry, getting a job, stuff like that, I'm a working professional, and I still come out to these events to network and just to talk with people. It really is. It's such a great resource my animation life is, just to like have these events that are very easy to come to, that are local, so you can get in touch not only with professionals like myself, but with people around you, and you can kind of grow out your network that way. So that would be my number one advice to you guys. But feel free to come up and talk to me, and I'm happy to see all of you, and this is unexpected and I'm nervous, so I'm
Awesome.